Welcome to another Black College Sports Network joint podcast with myself, AD Drew of the BCSN SportsWrap with Brian and AD, and my co-host today, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sportslab with Charles Bishop and Mike Washington. And if you see the screen in front of you, you're going to see some very distinguished faces that are joining Doc and myself. And we'll go in alphabetical order of the city. We're not going to go by names. We'll start off with Grambling, the city of Grambling's Mayor Ed Jones, the Honorable Ed Jones. How you doing, Mayor Jones?
How you doing? Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And from Prairie View, Texas, Mayor of Prairie View, Texas, Mayor David Allen.
Pleasure to be here, gentlemen. Thank you.
And from Tuskegee, Alabama, former mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, the Honorable Johnny Ford. How you doing, Mr. Mayor?
Fine. It's the pride of the swift-growing South and home of Tuskegee University. Thank you.
All right. And just give a little background about this. Obviously, everybody knows that over the past 3 to 4 weeks, our 4 HBCU conferences have decided not to play football this fall. Now, whatever adjective you want to use to describe their not playing, cancellation, suspension, postponement, use whatever adjective that you want to use. But the fact is, we will not see football this fall. That means no homecoming, no bands, no classics, and a lot of sad faces going around the HBCU world. So Dr. Cavil and I, we've had this conversation both on camera and off about some of the impact of these decisions. Now, obviously, we're hosts of sports shows. We focused on the field, the testing, and the other things that are going to be related to this. Now, we're going to get into some of the off the field things that Dr. Cavil and I have talked about, and we decided to bring in some experts, 3 mayors of 3 cities with HBCUs, and these HBCUs are the predominant industry in those cities, for lack of a better word, or a significant industry in those cities. And out of respect for time, because Mayor Ford has a prior commitment, we're gonna kind of let him go first. And Mayor Ford, just kind of give us an update on what's going on in Tuskegee, especially with how COVID-19 has affected the city in general, and some of your observations that you're seeing as how it can and will affect city government. We'll start off right there.
Well, first of all, let me just say that next time we'll make sure we have our present mayor, the Honorable Tony Haygood, for this cast. But in his absence, I'll go ahead and speak on behalf of our Tuskegee community, because we are headquartered here, the World Conference of Mayors and the Historic Black Towns and Settlements Alliance. Let me just simply say, I'll start off by saying I commend the leagues for making the decisions that they've made. I commend them because they put the health of the athletes first. All of us love college football. I love playing it as a running back and quarterback for Knoxville College back in the day. We all love our sports, but we love life more. And it's more important for them to take into consideration that until we get a vaccine, until we get a handle on this COVID-19 situation, it is best that they postpone, because life is most important. Now, I'm speaking not only as a former mayor, but I'm speaking as the president of and chairman of the board, rather, of the National Black Leadership Commission on Health, which is the voice of Black health in America. Our job is to look out for the Black community in this country, to make sure that health care is given a top priority. As a matter of fact, health care is the new civil rights struggle for us, in 2020, getting adequate access to health care. But I am so happy that you all are doing this, because not having sports is going to have a major negative economic impact upon the city of Tuskegee. Already, we're feeling it in our community. The students are not back on our local economy. But homecoming, for example, is the biggest day of the year. And Coach Drew, you know that, in Tuskegee, Alabama, a town of 9,000 people, we grow to probably about 50,000 people once you count everyone. I mean, it's just tremendous. So it's going to have a very drastic impact upon the local Tuskegee economy. But they made the right decision, in my opinion.
Dr. Cavil?
Yes, let me jump in here. And it is my esteemed honor to introduce the current mayor of the great city of Prairie View, the Honorable Mayor David Allen. And I say my mayor because he happens to be a Bachelor of Arts of Business Administration and MBA from Prairie View A&M University, and I happen to also be an alumni of Prairie View A&M University. So I am so proud. He was elected in May 2016. With that, let's start off with the same type of question first in terms of you, your family, and the city of Prairie View. How are you doing amidst the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, thank you, Dr. Cavil, and again, Dr. Drew. It's just a pleasure to be here with you, and certainly my esteemed honorable cohorts from Tuskegee and Grambling, especially Grambling. Anyway, no, that's it's a swag thing. No, fortunately, the family's fine, and the city, fortunately, is fine. We have had a few cases. Put it off for 4 months because I shut down City Hall immediately at the beginning of March. When I saw what was happening in other places, I knew it was only a matter of time. But we actually got hit pretty hard within the last 2 weeks in City Hall. A couple of police officers were exposed directly or indirectly, and same with a couple of employees. And fortunately, everybody's doing well behind that. Being the home of Prairie View A&M University, the second oldest institution in the state of Texas, they've had a few cases up there, again, with police officers, a few employees, and just a couple of students. But the concern is with school reopening and students coming back from all of these very hard-hit places into one conglomerate, social distancing is physically impossible with thousands of, relatively young adults coming and going through the same doors, touching the same doors and everything. So it's a serious concern for us as well. But from the economic standpoint, as was stated in Tuskegee, with homecoming, we have over 60,000 folks come here, and we're talking about a few $100,000 in lost revenue from an economic standpoint, just during that homecoming standpoint, not to mention the impact it will have on our local businesses, the employee jobs and the folks that they hire extra because of the crowds, and even the extra police force to help direct traffic and keep things under reasonable control with so many people coming and going. All of those things, on and off the campus will be lost. So it's an economic concern, as with, I'm sure, everyone nationwide. But I know California made the decision to shut it down. All the Ivy Leagues made the decision to shut it down. And I'm with the Honorable Mayor Ford on that I think shutting them down would be the right decision. We fall under the Texas A&M system. So right now, unfortunately, we're regulated by that board's decision. And right now they're trying to find ways of doing it safely, like they are in schools and colleges across the country. So we're just hopeful. Fortunately, as the home of the largest cricket sports complex in the United States, that has not slowed down. They're able to practice social distancing. It's all outdoors and that sort of thing. But again, even it was slowed down with state orders to shut down everything at one point.
Well, I want to say thank you, Mayor Allen, and I want to get into the cricket complex. But before we do that, I'm gonna pass it back to Drew so we can bring in the Honorable Mayor Edward Jones.
All right, and from Grambling, Louisiana, the home of Eddie Robinson and the refurbished Eddie Robinson Stadium. And for those of you all, before I let them speak, I'm gonna throw a little trivia fact that a lot of people don't know. Grambling hosted the NAIA championships last year, if I do remember that, in the refurbished stadium. So talk about economic impact. You know, they've got cricket in Prairie View, Texas. You know, they've got the NAIA football championships in Grambling, Louisiana. So, you know, well, let's just put it out there. First of all, how's the family? How's everybody? How's everything going in the city? Then we'll let you get into all the ancillary stuff that you want to talk about, Mayor Jones. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Drew, and thank you for that input about the NAIA. I think Mayor Allen loved to hear about that. Thank you. Grambling has done exceedingly well, and I thank God for that. You know, we are in a rural community. Grambling was established in 1901. We have close ties with Tuskegee, Booker T. Washington, sent Charles P. Adams to the Grambling to be the principal to start the school. With the COVID-19, we have really been financially impacted. We have over 5,000 students. They left. Many of our citizens worked at the university. They are now unemployed. We've been financially devastated, maybe to about 50% of our economy. But with all that said, we still look at our citizens. They are number one, and we want our citizens to be protected. And I just have to concur with Mayor Allen and former Mayor Johnny Ford, in that our citizens come first. And we just have to take that financial negative impact until we can make sure that our citizens are secure. So as I listen to Mayor Allen and Mayor Ford, we're going through the same things. Our homecoming, we have over 50,000 alumni to come. We won't see that this year. We go to New Orleans for the Bayou Classic. We won't see that this year. So we're having to make adjustments. As of today, we have not received any financial federal assistance. So, you know, we're just taking it day by day. Our citizens, because they're unemployed, you know, some of them are unable to pay their water bills. And so we've had to make concessions for that, with maybe a 50% loss in revenue. So we're going to continue to praise God and thank Him for us not having a drastic impact on the citizens as far as deaths are concerned.
Thank you for sharing that, Mayor Jones. Again, this is Dr. Kenyatta Cavil with AD Drew. This is a joint presentation from BCSN Network, Brian and AD SportsWrap, as well as Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sportslab. We're visiting with the former Mayor Johnny Ford of Tuskegee, Alabama, current Mayor Edward Jones of Grambling, Louisiana, as well as current Mayor David Allen of Prairie View. I keep wanting to throw in the A&M University. It's so much connected there, but the city of Prairie View, make sure I make that distinction. Although David Allen is an alumni of Prairie View A&M University. We just like to throw that in there because we're so proud of Prairie View A&M University. I think there was something intriguing about what Mayor Edward Jones talking about the extension of how cities connect. You know, obviously we're talking about your personal city, in his case, Grambling, and then he connected to New Orleans and how things were going on there. Prairie View, in a lot of ways, is connected with both Houston in terms of vicinity, and especially how Houston has extended in a lot of ways. And also with the big game, I'm sure both of y'all would get a kick out of this in Dallas. that is played between the great university, Grambling State University, and the great University of Prairie View A&M University. If you would, and we will come back to that cricket. I do want to explore that, but because of what Mayor Jones talked about, I want to give you a chance to talk about the interconnectedness of these cities and how certain things play a role and how they may affect one city that we hear quite a bit about because of the numbers, Dallas and Houston, and how they happen to impact your particular city, Prairie View, if you would, Mayor.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Well, the bulk of most universities, students come from that particular state. And within the state of Texas, as you say, Houston, Dallas, and even San Antonio has significant populations. All three have been hit extremely hard. And even the state capital in Austin and Houston were vying with the governor to try to do stay home orders. You know, again, they were just, trying to get a handle on those things and keep people safe. So when you start referring to Prairie View, outside of Texas, the largest number of our students come from California, another one of the top 5 states that have been hit as hard as it has been. So with those folks not traveling, the fees that they're paying, as Mayor Jones mentioned, the jobs at the university, when Houston initially and Harris County did their first stay home, the majority of people that work at Prairie View live in the Houston metropolitan Harris County area. So they had to shut the university down because their employees, the majority of them would not be deemed essential. So that's how we led to our shutdown here. Like you said, a direct relationship with what happened in Houston and them trying to get a handle on it and doing a shutdown. It impacted almost 90% of the 9 out of 10 people who work at Prairie View were affected by that shutdown and were ordered to stay home. So the jobs, the money that they spend, the sales tax that it generates, all of those things affected us then and since. They've done a phase in, but it's not the same. And again, with the students not being here, that's so much revenue. Our students, after all fees are paid, receive anywhere between $45 to $50 million in hand that's primarily spent in our local stores within the city and adjacent cities and within the county. So that's a lot of revenue that's going to affect a lot of people. Now, that's what they spend. The sales tax that all of us get as a result of that is a part of or on top of that. So it's been a real situation, as with Mayor Jones working with folks and payment plans with utility bills. And but we've been doing a few things. I sent you gentlemen some pictures to show a couple of things to offset it. The U.S. Department of Agriculture programs, I've got another one, which will be the 3rd one on this coming Thursday, tomorrow. And that's with 1,536 boxes of fruits and vegetables and almost 3,000 boxes. A couple of weeks ago was 3,400 boxes of meat. And the line and the traffic jam that it created, my police force and the other forces, because they had to get involved, it started lining up toward the university because we used the community center right off campus, and the line was going on to the university campus and blocking traffic with people getting to work, which to me, again, was a good problem. So they rerouted it and it went down a few miles, about 3 miles, but that's a lot of people coming for the free food. And I love it because it's actually not only a duplicatable program in Grambling, Tuskegee, and our other areas, but it's also one of those things where we paid for it. Those are federal dollars. And all of us that have ever worked, we paid for that. So it's a great opportunity to tap into that. And I'll be glad to share that information with my colleagues and the rest of the folks of the World Conference of Mayors and Historically Black Towns and Settlements.
Yes, I wanted to jump back in with a question for Ford. I know his time is of the essence as he has a prior appointment.
Go ahead.
And that was tremendous how you brought that to the table in terms of the current work that you're doing extended out of the market. With Mayor Ford, I want to ask you, looking at those dynamics, particularly about the homecoming you touched on, many of us are aware that follow HBCU sports. You know, one of the largest homecomings out there across the HBCU landscape, specifically in the proud for SIAC, the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, as we have the Southwestern Athletic Conference membership here as well. But talk about the magnitude of homecoming for Tuskegee and what it represents in terms of an economic framework that many may not be aware of.
Well, can you still see me? I'm in the car now.
Yes, we have you. You're fine.
Okay, good. Homecoming is really a reunion. It's an opportunity for alumni, friends, and supporters, families to come back and recharge their batteries, so to speak, because it brings the world back to Tuskegee. Football game is the highlight of everything during that weekend, but that whole week, the whole town is just excited about it. Our businesses benefit from it. Our people benefit from it. Our churches benefit from it. I mean, it's a happening, quote unquote, if I may say. Tuskegee is the pride of the swift growing South. Mother Tuskegee is the place where Booker T. Washington trained so many, and they went forth and helped to start other universities like the great University of Grambling, and also Prairie View and Tuskegee we have a great tradition because former mayor, there was one of the great former mayors of Prairie View, Sams, who was a football player as well as a great farmer in Prairie View, who is part of the great HBCU tradition. So whether it's Grambling, whether it's Tuskegee, homecoming is the biggest day of the year, and not to be able to have homecoming is going to be major. But I'm sure virtual is becoming the new normal now, not only to educate, but in some way to be able to play some of these sports. And perhaps, I know we have to look out for the safety of the athletes themselves, but there may be some ways that some competition can take place, like tennis and maybe even crickets, and some of the other sports can take place, and through the virtuality of it, still be seen and enjoyed. But yes, homecoming is just such an exciting time for us in the pride of the swift growing South. And my mayor and council, they do a great job of opening up the town to make sure that everyone is welcome for that occasion. So we are just so delighted that homecoming takes place every year. Will not be able to take place this year. So I'm waiting to hear the plan that the university is going to unfold in terms of their reopening by going virtual this year. So homecoming is the biggest day of the year, okay?
Thank you. Back to you, Drew.
Now, we've heard Mayor Allen give us a urban or more better word, a suburban view of how this thing is affecting a school that's in a metro Houston area, such as Prairie View. I want to turn to Mayor Jones now in Grambling, Louisiana, where Grambling is in a rural part of Louisiana. So kind of go through the economics, just like Mayor Allen did, of some of the things that's affecting Grambling as a rural college town.
Thank you, Drew. You know, we're going through the exact same thing. Our homecoming generates around $10 million for that weekend. We have community people that are vendors. They look forward to that weekend. They sell T-shirts, they sell food and other commodities. They're going to miss out on that funding this year. The university has national people coming in to be vendors. They're going to miss that revenue. So, it really, really is a devastating impact. It has a devastating impact on our city. 42% of our students come from out of state. And then for homecoming, they bring their relatives, other alumni come, and we really have a great time on that weekend. But we can really, really tell the financial benefits from it because our sales tax go up about maybe $20,000 to $25,000 for that month. So we really look forward to homecoming. As Mayor Ford said, it's like a family reunion. Everybody comes back once a year just to see that family member again. So it has a devastating effect on our city. We look forward to homecoming, to the parade, to the other activities that it brings. Unfortunately, we will not have that this year, but we want, again, to save as many lives as possible.
All right, I've got a follow-up on that. I mentioned it earlier that Grambling hosted the NAIA football championships. I don't remember if it was. I think that was on the Division I level of NAIA, if I remember that correctly.
So,
Number one, is Grambling scheduled to host that again for 2020? Has the NAIA, if you are scheduled to host it, has the NAIA made any contact with you about still putting on that event or pushing that event back? And if that event is canceled, pushed back, or whatever, what would that impact of that additional revenue, in addition to losing the football season, have on Grambling's local economy?
I haven't heard anything yet, Drew, but it's going to be a double whammy for us. And hopefully, as of this date again, we have not received any federal assistance to compensate us for the loss. We are anticipating receiving some. So hopefully that will come in to make the burden a little lighter.
All right, Dr. Cavil.
Yes, thank you. I want to go back to Prairie View in terms of Mayor David Allen to ask a little bit about that cricket. You made sure that we understood the cricket, and I've had the opportunity to drive by it as I'm headed home back to my parents' house in Central Texas. And I really want to find a little bit about how that connection came to be. Obviously, many of us are not very familiar with cricket, the game. So if you can explain that a little bit.
That's what I was
and those that are out of Florida, a lot of people in that cultural dynamic have a lot greater experience with cricket, obviously through the Caribbean, and then back over to Europe in terms of London, and to some degree Asia in terms of India as well. But all of a sudden, Prairie View, in regards to that, they have landed, as you stated, the largest cricket complex in the country. Quite amazing to be with that in regards to that. There's two parts of this question. One, the historical nature of it. How did it come to be? And two, why is it important? Because obviously we're a sports show and we talk about the sporting context of this. We don't necessarily see cricket as a HBCU sports, but who knows? That may be a growing field and an opportunity. But what is the connection with cricket in the city of Prairie View?
Thank you, Dr. Cavil. Well, the gentleman, Tanwir Ahmed, he is a cricket aficionado. He also happens to be a franchisor, KFC, Taco Bell, and a few other ventures he may be in. I know his franchises are in about 4 different states. He owned 16 acres in the area already. And when I was blessed to meet him and got to know him, first off, I'm from Panama. So we have cricket in Panama. So I was vaguely familiar, but my background is not politics. It's my first foray into politics. I've never held another position. I've never been on the council, but I got 40 years of business background. And that was what I've studied and trained in. I recall 25, maybe 30 years ago, you gentlemen will remember when we first started hearing soccer.
Mhm.
Well, a lot of people didn't understand it because they called it football, as they do back home in Panama, Latin America, and all that. It's a big deal, and they still do. Only in the US is it referred to as soccer because we already had the NFL, AFL here. So they changed it to soccer. Well, fast forward, many of the people who didn't understand it back then maybe rejected it because they first came in with football and we already liked our Dallas Cowboys and whoever else. Well, now soccer has evolved to where not only is it the #1 sport in the world, which it was before it even came to the US, but those same people who didn't understand it, their children or grandchildren are playing soccer in school.
Right.
Okay, socially acceptable, and a lot of revenue with the following as any sport. Well, cricket is #2 in the world, only behind soccer. So that's where, you know, I started thinking, oh my God, because when I first started mentioning cricket around here, everyone was, is that cricket the cell phone? Or why do y'all want to have cricket? Why do y'all want to have those bugs in the city? You know what I mean? You know, all of that. And I loved it because that's exactly what happened with what we now know as soccer. And fast forward, we now have 7 or 8 completed fields, you know, fully, as you say, regulatory fields, all the, you know, standards that you need. And they have plans and an area where we're starting to put together for a 5,000 seat stadium that they're ultimately going to build. Well, it's right along the freeway, right on my western border of the city of Prairie View. Millions of people going between Houston and College Station to Texas A&M, or Austin, the state capital, or any place in between, come up and down that Highway 290. And what I talked to him about was, and he agreed, we set the cricket fields away from the freeway a little bit to leave room for development. Well, we've already had a couple of meetings and Zoom calls on some development and potential hotels and things right there on the freeway, places to eat, shop, what have you. Cricket, there's 74 colleges and universities that have a cricket team. I'm hoping to make Prairie View 75. But we hosted the National Collegiate Cricket Association tournament a little over a year ago, and then another one a few months ago, just before this stopped. Well, the first year there was 8 teams, and University of Houston beat MIT. Those were some of the 8 teams. Yale was there, and UT Austin, University of Texas, things like that. Well, this last one, it was 24 teams, from 8 to 24 in 12 months, just behind the exposure. But all of those people are doing what? Coming to the city of Prairie View. We're actively seeking hotels. I'm in touch with probably 4 different entities that are trying to bring hotels. And my position is, being on the freeway and with everything at the university and all that stuff, we really, again, we're still somewhat rural, because in our county, even though we're 40 minutes away from Houston, we're still somewhat rural. We don't have a lot of those facilities in the county, much less the city. So by having those things and using Prairie View as that foundation, all the research, the conferences, as Mayor Jones and Mayor Ford talked about, from a homecoming standpoint, to all the convocations we have, to the commencement and graduations, to the research people coming and going, I want all those people to stay in the city, along with their family and friends that come to visit. So those type of things are springboarding off of cricket. You mentioned London. One of my interviews was with the London Times. I remember 2 things from that call. He asked, was we the largest, really the largest, with 84 acres? I said, no, it's 86. And he asked, where is Prairie View? That's why cricket, okay?
All
No
right.
doubt. Great explanation, and thank you for sharing it. Back to you, Adrian.
Now we've heard a little bit about some economic development going on in Grambling and in Prairie View. And if Mayor Ford is still there, are you still there, Mayor Ford?
I'm still here.
Talk talk about, even though the projects that you have going on in Tuskegee are maybe quite not as big as that 86-acre cricket complex, there is some exciting redevelopment going on in the Tuskegee area. Just kind of get into those, because those projects that were started as you were mayor from 2012 to 2016, and that are now coming to fruition.
Well, first of all, Mayor Jones share interstates. He's got Interstate 20, and I've got Interstate 85. And so development at our exits on the interstate is key to the economic development of our cities. You know, the interstates have played such a great role across America in terms of being a positive factor in terms of economic development in cities across America. So Mayor Jones and I share that. You all don't have anything on us. Well, let me just say this: you got the cricket field, but I've got Victory Land, which at one point, was the nation's #1 Greyhound racing park. We no longer do Greyhound racing, but all kinds of pari-mutuel games. It's held, you know, those games are held there in terms of in a virtual way at our racetrack. So entertainment, whether it's football, basketball, gaming, the American people spend a lot of money on sports and entertainment. We have to, as mayors, come up with some way to entertain our people and to use that entertainment as as an economic benefit to our community. We are so proud that Tuskegee, our cultural heritage, is really what we have. We have what the whole nation and the world is proud of, and that is the home of the flying, fighting Tuskegee Airmen, the National Historic Site for the Tuskegee Airmen located in Tuskegee, and also the home of Tuskegee University, where Booker T. Washington and Dr. George Washington Carver did so much. So we believe in using our cultural heritage tourism. Last year, Mayor Jones and Mayor Allen, I want to thank them and all of the mayors in the Historic Black Towns and Settlements Alliance for coming to Tuskegee and helping us to put on the first international conference on cultural heritage tourism. And while we'll not be doing it this year because of the COVID-19, we will certainly be continuing that initiative in the future. So all of us from these historic Black towns, let me just simply say that I am so proud of these two mayors. Mayor Jones, who is the president of the World Conference of Mayors, Conférence Mondiale des Maires, and Mayor David Allen, who is the mayor of Prairie View, who is serving, perhaps, I guess this is your first term, but he has hit the ground running and has proven to be an outstanding mayor, particularly with his business aspects. His business background, he is our Vice President of Treasury. So both of these mayors make us very, very proud. And Mayor Jones, Mayor Allen, and my mayor, Mayor Haygood, all of those mayors who make up the Historic Black Towns and Settlements Alliance, I am honored to be able to serve as their president and as their humble servant whose job it is to coordinate and to support them and give them the kind of support they need to be able to interact and benefit from each other and from what may exist in the nation. Just like Mayor Allen mentioned a few moments ago about a program, and I'm interested in knowing about that food agriculture program, Mr. Mayor, because we do want to share with the rest of the towns. That's the benefit of being a part of the Historic Black Towns and Settlements Alliance. We share. what's good for one town, in most instances, is good for another town. Back to you, Drew, and to all of you all, thank you for letting me be on. I've got to get off now for an appointment. But carry on.
Thank you,
No
Mr.
problem.
Mayor.
Thanks for having me.
Great.
Take care.
All right. And just to throw some historical context as Mayor Ford leaves us, Mayor Ford is the 8-time mayor of the city of Tuskegee, 2-time state representative for the 83rd district in Alabama, and in 1972 was one of the first was part of the group of the first African-American mayors elected in the South. So and he's been a mentor to Mayor Jones, to Mayor Allen, and to myself throughout the years.
Mhm.
So just want to give some context on that. All right, Dr. Cavil, I'm gonna give it to you. We're gonna start trying to wind this show down. So I'm gonna let you get your last set of questions out, Dr. Cavil.
Yes, this is for both mayors. I'll start with Mayor Jones, and then we'll allow you to pick it up, Mayor Allen. In summation, in a lot of ways, when we look at it, what is the nexus? What are some things that you're looking at doing now? Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic it's not something that we can certainly pin down and say, okay, it will be gone tomorrow, obviously in a short period of time. So what are some of the things that you all with your council looking at of how you will proceed during this period of time in the short term and then to some degree in the long term? What are some of your thoughts that people need to understand in respect to these cities, looking at it from a historical nature of Black cities, African-American townships into this very modern age? If you can encapsulate that and wrap all that together, I would appreciate it. And again, I want to start with the Honorable Edward Jones, and then we'll go to Honorable Mayor David Allen.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say thanks to Honorable Mayor Ford. He is our founder. He is our mentor. And if it were not for him, we would not be where we are today. I told them in a meeting last week that it was Mayor Ford that inspired me to go into politics when I was a senior in college.
Wow.
And I always attribute that.
We lost your audio, Mayor Jones.
Talk about.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead and repeat that. You talked about college.
Right. I said that Mayor Ford was the person who inspired me when I was a senior in college to go into politics. So I want to give him a shout out for that. What we're doing now during this COVID period is planning for next year. And you mentioned about the vaccine. So hopefully by this time next year, there will be a vaccine for COVID. What we have every July is what we call the Legends Weekend. And that is always sponsored by Doug Williams and Shaq Harris. And everybody knows Doug Williams and Shaq Harris. We have a whole weekend that we give to those athletes who played at Grambling State University, and many of them went on to play professionally. What we did was, for 35 years, unfortunately, for the city of Grambling, we did not have a grocery store. We had to go 5 miles to go to a grocery store, so that made us a food desert. So what we did, we went to the federal government, and we were able to get $10 million to form what we call Legend Square. It consists of a grocery store and 5 spaces for other retail outlets. And at that square, we have what we call a Walk of Fame. And we have monuments that we have dedicated to athletes like Doug Williams and Shaq Harris and other athletes that have gone through the ranks at Grambling State University and went on professionally. So what we're doing, we're preparing not only for next year's homecoming, but we're preparing for next year's Legends Weekend. And we're preparing for other events that come into the city of Grambling. We're also looking forward to a hotel. In fact, two possibly starting in 2021. Our goal is to take care of ourselves, to become self-sufficient. We want to make sure that all of our goods and services, especially our basic goods and services, can be bought in the city of Grambling. So that will continue to be our goal here in our city.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. With that, Mayor Allen, you can take up with that. And personally, I've had the opportunity, as I said, I drove down Chandler Boulevard, seen the Black Lives Matter painted street, and that was tremendous. But along with that, not only are you doing those type of cultural significant standpoints, but also I've seen a lot of the growth. You talk about it on the sporting side with the crickets, but I've also seen some of the building, the housing, apartments, and literally housing communities going around there. Can you tie all that in, similar to what Mayor Jones talked about? What's next? You mentioned a little bit about hotel potentially down the road. Give us a context historically to today. What does it all mean?
Okay, good question. And in picking up on what my dear friend Mayor Jones, we're similarly situated. We don't have the grocery store like Grambling. Our food desert situation still exists. We're in a slightly different, not slightly, grossly different situation from Grambling. The city of Prairie View is in Waller County, and Waller County has a unfortunate history of not being too kind to African Americans. The city of Prairie View and Prairie View A&M University is built on the Alta Vista Plantation. So from that, a lot of things have happened and have been sort of an upstream. There's been Highway 290, some 30 something years now. And I noticed, one of the things I would notice as I came back home from Los Angeles to homecoming at Prairie View and in, board meetings with the Alumni Association, et cetera, that there was growth, economic growth. East of us in the city of Waller and west of us in the city of Hempstead.
That's
but there was nothing along the highway, and Mayor Ford touched on, a highway changes things. You got the traffic, you just need to give them a reason to get off, and just a small percentage can do a lot for your city. So what I commenced to do, and one of the reasons why I ran for mayor, was because our property taxes were some of the highest in the county, and yet we offered the least amount of services. So from a business standpoint, I already knew we had a student housing shortage, but I also knew, in taking a look at it, that those are relatively big projects, generate a lot of property tax to the city. So I commenced to going after those things, ran into the gentleman with cricket and added that, because number one, they're doing two things. They tend to, in our rural environments, they tend to clear up unfinished land. So you go from raw land, however it looks, whether it looks like a forest or just grass, to a nice improvement, and aesthetically as well as economically, that worked for me. So we got quite a few of those. But the Prairie View Cricket Complex I've touched on. We are about to open, it's already built, we're waiting on one part, a new Checkers restaurant right on the freeway. We opened a little over a week ago a new Shell gas station, huge convenience store that has a Mexican food and a pizza operation separately inside. Like when you go into some of the things on the freeway. We also have the Campus Edge apartments, which is the ones you see from the freeway, and their 60 acres is maybe only about 12 acres built out, and they're continuing to do some things. Our Legacy of Prairie View, which is built by now that gentleman's daughter, they're from Turkey, but his daughter is a graduate of our College of Architecture. So between me meeting them, finding that out, he was in trouble and he didn't even know it. being the number
No
one
doubt.
recruiter of students in the university's history. The legacy of Prairie View student apartments, 400 something units, is being built by two young ladies who are medical doctors from Prairie View. Panther Hill is a 1,400 bedroom, totally completed complex that's also built by some of the same principals with Campus Edge. The Gates of Prairie View, another project with retail townhomes, is under construction. I think about 5 of their buildings are up and built, and now I guess, finishing up the insides. Bringing Vietnamese orchid business to the city of Prairie View before they, got met by somebody like Mayor Jones and Grambling and stuff. So they are set to come. They were only being held up by the COVID thing. Fortunately, Vietnam hasn't had any deaths from COVID because those folks, a lot of countries did what they were supposed to do, unlike the US. But that business, we met with the consulate general. I met with the US Embassy, the US Department of Agriculture while I was in Vietnam. I spent New Year's in Vietnam because when they came over here and I liked what they were talking about and they invited me to come, I went, if that's what it took to get them. And they're starting an investment of over $1 million just to get that business started over here. And then you're going to have all that traffic and jobs with people coming to the city of Prairie View to get their orchids. Now I understand why orchids cost so much. We did a Panama City, City of Prairie View, San Antonio Airport, and I pulled in Prairie View A&M University. We did a trade mission. So now we've got things going between my home of Panama, and we did an MOU with one of the universities that's big on agriculture, since that's Prairie View's a big part of Prairie View. Guachane, Colombia was a relationship that was started with my predecessor, and I picked up on it. They asked me to come over, and I said, well, Colombia was a part of Panama, so I didn't, I'm okay. And they said, no, we'd like you to help us. I said, well, if there's something I can do to help, then I'll come. I came over, a wonderfully quaint town founded by former runaway slaves, about 40 minutes outside of Cali, Colombia. 98% still almost, you think you're like in Senegal or Ghana. These are folks who haven't lost that deep black skin texture. That melanin is strong there, and almost 100% Spanish only. So I convinced the city council and the mayor, let's do an economic development program, bilingual Spanish, English. You already know Spanish is the fastest growing language in the world. And now they've been teaching English in the elementary schools for the last 3 years. And that's an exciting program because it's coming up into the rest of the schools. Did a city and Universidad del Cauca in Popayán, Colombia, one of the oldest universities in the country of Colombia, with the city of Prairie View. And now we're getting, again, a lot of stuff was stopped by this, but we've got the university and they're ready to fund 4 or 5 of the university agriculture people to come over there. They're big on coffee. The university even has its own brand and what have you. So that relationship is started. And the Houston Gateway to the Americas, I was a panelist there exposing them to Prairie View. And most of the countries there were from somewhere in Latin America, but there's a big movement now that we've got the super tanker going through the expanded Panama Canal, and they're building a few hours south of us in the city of Freeport. They're dredging so that they can hold the super tankers all the way from the Panama Canal and drop goods there. So that economic impact will be flowing up in the direction of Prairie View and Waller County, because they'll be shipping goods to Nebraska, Kansas, and Ohio and beyond. So we've been blessed in the city of Prairie View because of the previous economic development that was taking place. We have just recently been starting to receive the property taxes from those. So we haven't really lost. Sales tax with us, fortunately, is a minor component. Yes, we will miss it, but it went up from 382,000 in 2016 when I came in to over 900,000 last year. So we can afford for it to go down because property taxes is really gonna supersede that, as several of these other places are now being finished out because only one is totally complete. even the cricket complex. All the other stuff is still being added to the tax appraisals. So we'll be, really blessed in that economic regard. And we're just trying to, make sure we keep everybody safe. But financially, the business was so big and so ongoing, and we had so little that this addition is really helping to get us through this and take us, for years to come, because the appraisals are going to continue to go up, the property taxes are continuing to go up, and that just means greater revenue for the city to provide services to our residents.
I just want to say thank you to both of you all before I pass it on to AD to close us out. But Mayor David Allen, Mayor Edward Jones, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your knowledge. Most importantly, thank you for the history, and thank you for providing the leadership that you have in regards to our institutions. Obviously, you know that we talk HBCU sports, but this was a chance for us to extend the dialogue, extend that conversation so people get an understanding, the direct connection between sports and the respective cities, and even more so the economic platform that we bring. And I'm one of those individuals that says that the more that we teach, the more we empower each other to really understand the impact we have in our particular decisions that we make in moving us forward as cities, as leaders, as people. And ultimately, that means when we do that, leading our culture forward, we move the United States forward, and therefore we move the world forward. So there's a bigger picture that we see in terms of this framework. So I wanted to make sure that I close on my part of this interview by saying thank you for your time, and thank you for AD Drew for setting all this up in regards to taking us on a slight bit of a tangent, but doing it in such a way that we educate and not just entertain, as we talked about earlier. So gentlemen, hopefully I get a chance to visit both of you all in the near future. Again, Honorable Mayor David Allen, Honorable Mayor Edward Jones, for what you are doing. And I will say this, go Panthers, go Tigers, as we continue to keep this forward in this SWAC family as we push back. And much love to former Mayor of Tuskegee as he came on, but I didn't get a chance to directly say, but make sure, AD Drew, if you would pass on my thank you for that. And you all be safe and continue to lead us in such powerful directions. Thank you so much for your time. Back to you, Drew.
All right, two mayors. My last question that I wanted to get off before we do our final farewells. Dr. Cavil was a little premature with his close out there, but
what the only reason I was saying that because I have to get off for another meeting, okay. And so I was doing that in that frame. I knew that you had to need to actually carry on with the conversation, but I wanted to do that for me because I got a 1:30 appointment that I have to hit.
I got you. Well, we appreciate you, Dr. Cavil. And this is going to be my last question before I let you two guys close it out. Mayor Jones, Mayor Allen, both of you all are HBCU alums. Both of you all happen to be mayors of the cities where you went to school at. So talk about that HBCU foundation. And then how does it go from being a student on the yard to being the mayor of the town of the yard where you was a student at? That's the best way that I can put it. That's gonna be my final question I have you all before we do our outtakes. We'll start with Mayor Jones on that.
Thank you, Drew. You know, as an alumni of Grambling State University, actually, I was born in Grambling, and I've been here all of my life. And it really gives you quite an edge because you know the people that you serve. You know, it's different from what they say and what they feel. And so you hear what they say, but you really, really know how they feel about things. And that gives a person an edge on being the mayor. Because you have to know the people you serve, you have to know their needs and their wants, and it better prepares you to become a better mayor. So I am so happy that I was born here, that I received my undergraduate and graduate degree from Grambling State University. I participated in various organizations here. I was the president of the Grambling Chamber of Commerce. I served on the Crime Stoppers organization. I also served on the Grambling Housing Commission. So, you know, I've been in almost every aspect of the Grambling community life. So it's been an honor. It is still an honor. I don't look at this position as being a job. It's my life, it's what I do. So I remember Michael Jordan said that he didn't believe that he was getting paid for something actually he would have done for free. Well, the same here. You know, this is my life, and I don't know what I would do if I didn't have it. So from that perspective, that's how I feel about being the mayor and having the honor of finishing from Grambling State University.
Same question, Mayor Allen.
Well, Drew, I'll tell you, it's as with Mayor Jones, we probably have a fulfillment that supersedes what most people can understand, because the foundation, the people that I met, I first heard of Prairie View when I was 12 years old from my all-time favorite teacher. No one in my family had gone to college, but I remember she said, David, college will be some of the best years of your life if you apply yourself and select the right school. I didn't have any schools, so I said, let me try her school because it worked for her and her husband. And that's how I came to Prairie View. Well, first time I saw it, they were dropping me off with my bags, and it was sight unseen. And I promise you, it did not look as good as it does today. But you know, it was rural and it showed. But fast forward, in having been involved and active with the Alumni Association, some of the professors were they're like lifetime friends to me. You know, I was blessed to be able to do some things here as a student that had I gone to a traditionally white institution, I wouldn't have had those invitations to people's homes to eat, or some of the activities, or to some of the mentoring. One of the programs that I started after COVID was, I remember after Hurricane Harvey, checking on several of our seniors, 90 plus or homebound. Some of these were my former professors, or I knew their husbands, you know, on the campus because of that community thing. And that's something that we're still doing today. Businesses have chipped in, individuals have chipped in, and every Friday and sometimes Wednesday or Thursday, we take meals to those 42 people throughout the city with me and a couple of volunteers. But the caring is the one thing that, for the people in the area, is probably the one thing me and Mayor Jones and anyone like us who came up through that area. I never thought twice that I never thought once that I would ever live in the city of Prairie View. And most of my friends, after leaving Los Angeles and spending 3 years in Europe, you know, they'd ask, where are you? I said, I'm in PV. No, where you living at now? They said, no, I live here. They said, you live in Prairie View? You know, I mean, because it was more the student town, you know, for us. So to be here, to be able to help, to put back, we certainly learned while here some of the things that it needed. So after going out, getting some experience and being able to come back and help, like Mayor Jones, there's nothing more satisfying. Him bringing that grocery store when they didn't have a grocery store. Those things are things that make you feel in a way that you can't even articulate, or generating the revenue. Like right now, we're going through this thing. I was supposed to be out of here May 2nd. The election was canceled because of COVID and moved to November 3rd in line with the national election. The things that I'm doing now, only God could have me still here, because I was supposed to be gone. An election has never been canceled, but this one was, you know, such a devastating thing that scared everyone that it was moved. But the satisfaction that comes from the grants that you're bringing, from the businesses that you're you're doing, from being able to be in a position to help people like the USDA project on tomorrow, and arrange for free COVID testing since we have this problem. I said, well, let's get some help with it. So we got people from Prairie View and of course all over the county coming, but I'm just excited because they're coming to Prairie View to get those services. And you know, we're proud of our cities and our universities, and the fact that we're HBCU in a predominantly historically Black town, to me, is just an incredible plus that we're able to give back to places and people that gave us so much.
All right. Once again, want to thank you all for joining us here today. I am going to let you guys get one parting shot. Anything that you guys want to get off your chest, we're gonna let you get that off. But I do want to get this out. We are here on the Black College Sports Network. This was a joint show for the BCSN SportsWrap, along with Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sportslab. Dr. Cavil had to jump off for a prior commitment. Also, we had joining us, in addition to Mayor David Allen and Mayor Edward Jones, was former Mayor Johnny Ford of Tuskegee, Alabama. So if you need to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on my Twitter at BCSN Drew. That's BCSN DREW. You can find this podcast along with all of our other podcasts on the JBN family of networks, online on YouTube at MyJBN Online, also on Facebook at the Black College Sports Network and the BCSN Sports Wrap. Also, this podcast will be available at Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Facebook and YouTube also. So we'll start off with you this time, Mayor Allen. 2 minutes, anything you want to talk about, anything you want to get out, 2 minutes, the floor is yours. And once you tell your final thought, let everybody know how they can get in contact with you.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I want to do is thank you and Dr. Cavil, Drew, because without people like you all doing what you do, we wouldn't be able to share the historical information, the educational information, you know, how even something like COVID is affecting us and our constituents, our concerns, and what we're trying to do to get past them. And certainly the Honorable Mayor Ford, his historical component goes so far back, I had no idea. And had he not started the Historical Black Towns and Settlements Alliance and the World Conference of Mayors, I wouldn't be meeting you all. I wouldn't have met my incredible friend, Mayor Ed Jones down in Grambling, you know, where even if they win the game, we mistreat them so bad at halftime that it doesn't matter. But we love the swag love. We love the swag love.
Wait, not to cut you off. Who is the Battle of the Bands? Between
us.
Jones?
Us.
Rebuttal? All right, sorry to cut you off for your final take there, Mayor Allen. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. No, I think that one of the best things that we can do is, and we've been doing a good job with what Mayor Ford started and what Mayor Jones leads with our World Conference of Mayors, in sharing information. But my final point to you, sir, and Dr. Cavil, and we touched on before you started, we need to really blow out wonderful programs like this, and I'm sure so many others that you all do, because our young folks need to see and hear that not only can they go on and do what y'all are doing or what we did, but to learn how we even come together, work together, even with incredible competitions between schools like Prairie View A&M University and Grambling State University, how we have so much fun, camaraderie, fellowship, and love between us. A lot of folks don't understand the competing doesn't stop, but it ends and builds in just a wonderful, beautifully loved manner. And again, thank you, sir, for having us.
All right, Mayor Jones, same right. Oh, Mayor Allen, how do we get in touch with you before I let Mayor Jones go?
Oh, I'll give you my personal cell. It's area 323-646-9818. That's 323-646-9818. 9818. Email dallen, DALLEN, at Prairie View, Texas. All 3 words fully spelled out together. prairieviewtexas.gov, G-O-V for government.
And the city website?
prairieviewtexas.gov.
Is that spelled all right? Texas spelled all the way out?
Yes, and if you Google Prairie View, it'll come up. If you Google Prairie View crickets, you'll probably get more wonderful information than you want to hear, but it's all good.
All right, now to you, Mayor Jones, same rights.
Hey, thank you so much, Drew. I really appreciate you and Dr. Cavil for having us on today. You know, many times the focus is always only on the university and not on the city that surrounds the university. So thank you for giving us this time to talk about our city. I also want to say that Mayor Ford has just been a true leader, as Mayor Allen has said, in pulling us all together, not only for the World Conference of Mayors, but also for the Historic Black Towns and Settlements Alliance. And Mayor Allen and I, we tease each other a lot, but we are great friends, and I have so much respect for Mayor Allen. So thank you very much for giving us this time to talk about our cities and how our cities relate to the universities that are within our cities. You can contact me personally on my cell. It's 318-480-1858. We also have our email address, which is mayor@cityofgrambling.net. Our Facebook page is cityofgrambling.org. So please contact us.
All right, and once again, we appreciate you for joining us, Mayor David Allen, Honorable David Allen, the Honorable Mayor Edward Jones, for my former mayor, the Honorable Johnny Ford, and for my co-host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, and my normal co-host, Brian Fulford, who could not be here today. This is AD Drew of the Black College Sports Network, and we'd like to thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you on the other side. I holla.
Everybody have
Sir.
a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
God bless and be safe.
I have in me the ability to make you a better you. So if you work hard, focus, stay on point, you can do